What's going on, folks? Coming back to the dark side with this one, just because they had cookies. But, this is my Dr.Lychee list. I'm just gonna give you, like, the names and ratios before I go over the picture version. You can just take a look, stop, play, rewind, do what you need to do. Always helps with the retention. But, before I go into it, I want to say the main principal concept of this is warping, and that's generally what black does. But also, I want to put an extra emphasis on the hand, so that's my main goal: warp field, warp hand, warp everything. So without further ado, let's get into the deck list. Go into the visual view. This is like a new buff to the deck from the new set that I incorporated in. This deck has the propensity to go tall, not so much wide, but it can if it want to in unique ways when we get into there. But I'm very light on the sand package because I know a lot of people run Cumber and Nameless. I think this kind of replaced the slot for me because it does that and it floodgates, like, dual purpose. And for a lot of decks like this, you want to have things with dual purpose. Next, another boss or general we like to call Vanisher. Put attacks on your opponent. And this another closeout, especially against other black decks. This could outright win you the game, and this is a triple striker. From all of the other lists that I've done and seen, I think having a triple striker puts you that much closer over the edge, and as far as winning the game or pushing pressure. That's why we chose this secret, even though we had a few other secrets we could have ran. I'll go over those in the end, but this is something I chose because it can reduce the stealth down to 0 depending on how you set it up. And for our last two generals, this highly goes into the concept I explained in the beginning, which is we trying to warp everything and even through barriers. So we have multiple ways to get through cards that has a barrier and get them off the field, especially like that Vegito 6 barrier blocker. So he kind of takes care of that amongst other things. And we got our 1-2 combo. I really liked him for the longest, but for the most part costs too much energy to invest into him. There are only few decks that could use him effectively, and this was one of them. So this is our key piece to our game finisher combo, which we can win the game as early as turn 4. Can you believe that in Hatch? But super combo of choice is this. Depending on my SCR, it'll probably be this most of the time because I know people was using Vegeta. I've seen some people use Trunks. Trunks is another good one depending on your SCR choice. But for this, I like this because I can set it up early and easy. This mostly is just for a draw, but half the time I use it as for its -2. I might just play it and just -2 it. But it's just another, how should I say, another swing for those decks that tax you for swing with a battle card. That's its main purpose. Then we have the Lord Slugs to keep us from decking out and recycling resources. And this is something we get advantage from and take away resources. and it has Dark Overwhelm, which that means it stays and doesn't remove itself at the end of the turn. But you have the choice to overwhelm it regularly or Dark Overwhelm it. That is your choice, but most of the time you wanna do the latter. And Hatch, I really like this, but we wanted to keep this to a 50 to 52 card deck. Even though I see a lot of people going up 60s, I'm not saying it's wrong, but I wanted my deck to run as efficiently as possible and making the hard choices and cuts as necessary to do that. This was one I was used to running at 4. Then we got Incarnate, pretty black staple. Same with the Oceanus, even though I don't use it as much. This really good for against decks that's going wide, but at the end of the day, if they counterplay this, it's still a negate. So I went to a 2-2 split. This is something I was running in my Meki deck, because I kind of had this principle with my Meki deck, but the difference between this deck and my Meki deck couldn't always slow down the tempo, but due to my leader effect, which allows or restricts the number of attacks to potentially 2 to 3, maybe 4 going into the late game, but that's why we can just hit that second area or that second resource, which is the hand. That's why we're running them. And this is kind of like a more expensive version of a ban card, but it has its uses. This is a recovery piece, one of 4 recovery pieces that we run in the deck. Another overrun, because we kind of overrun a lot in there. The other recovery pieces are Beyond All Limits, just to tech 1 of, and 2 full mission accomplished. I wanted 2 that I can play and get their effect, and 1 that I didn't need to play anything, because sometimes your opponent, especially yellow, can have like a counter play for these, or something to negate their effect. But that's why I have alternative options. Then we have striking the weak points, also fusion target to my SS4 Gogeta, and the Vegito. Run that just to tech 1. Just tech 1. I'm not really fusing it to this like the traditional way, which I could do 2 of these to fuse into it, or 1 and 1 for the Patara fusion. But I usually use this off my Z units until we get there later. I always love this card. I don't care how many times it's vulnerable to removal. They still gotta answer it. Now whether you use your answers on this versus my other stuff. But a blocker that draws 1 was always valued. The only downside is no combo power, but we only run 2. But if I didn't wanted to keep my deck as minimal as possible, this would be an easy 4 of them. Then we got a split of Extinction Attack, which is a forgotten gem for black that most black decks don't run anymore. Same with minus Energy Ball, but this has dual utility in a sense. Getting pressure early with small guys, this kind of takes care of that for you if you have a unison. Petrification gonna be the most people saying black's best card. I still say the 7-drop is up there in contention, but hey, what do I know? Second 1 and counter, usually play more, but this deck aim is to get to a certain threshold and you just win. Usually that's between 4 and 7. 2 power bursts, and we spread the rest of the negates of 1, 1, 1, and 1. These are the most common that you will see in here, but this one is a special tech. I'll tell you a combo with that in the end, because I'll give you a few combos, because some of this might be not easy to process off first glance, because I know a lot of people just gonna come glance and dip, but mostly it's a negate, and we use the second effect later. This one is just another negate that can get back at any time and cycle through it, and that is our mini deck. Going into the side right quick. Scroll down. Boom, we got a lot of side deck choices. The Broken Seal. Anything I don't want to see, I'm just going to call the name and the energy cost, and it can be played next time. Simple and easy. You're in a Z Unison type of format, so having a card that can kind of slow that momentum down from what you get from your unisons is good to have. I was thinking about bumping this up to 2, but don't know what to cut yet. But 1 is good for when I see it, and it's good to offset your opponent. Unexpected turn. Failing in here just to hit some SCRs that I don't want to see, but good for other matchups and other situations where this can sometimes clear a board. Ghost Warriors still gotta respect blue sometimes, even though I don't. My third or fourth counterplay, fifth counterplay, net. This is just for those SCRs with deflect and other boss monsters with deflect. I had gotta work my way around that and just stun them for a bit. Especially if I don't have the Petra in here. Just for not only green, a few other colors make you discard your hand, especially with that successor Gogeta going around. The hunt, this has been in almost every deck list, for the fact that while green is still relevant, which they'll use the free counters, you gotta have cards stopping. Koiskai is pretty staple. One of the best cards we stopped running. I still like to float it in every now and again. I don't get it all on my deck list. When I do, I do. Rebellion Hammer, this is my other favorite counterplay, because how this deck functions, you do a lot of mitigating your drop to the warp and your warp back to drop. And this will be most live in a deck like this, and maybe like Xeno Trunks. Going to our Z deck. I don't know why I got it in this order. The most important Z card you want to be flexing into like every other turn after turn like 2 or 3 is Mighty Blast. This is how you're going to fill up your drop for overwhelming, because you want to overwhelm almost every turn after turn 3, which you awaken. But also gives you a power boost, and also removes a 5 or less for free during the active battle of 3's energy. You just put those at the drop. A lot of people forget that or don't use it, but I never forgot. Then we got SS4. It's supposed to be 2, but I forgot to subtract it, but we'll fix that later. And got the Vegito Sparks. a lot of your energetic combos will come through this unison, and depending on the matchup, you more than likely can have the chance of having this out all day, depending on how your defense is set up. But if you're not using this, you're defaulting to this, especially if you want to pressure right away or early or unexpectedly. This one gives you the double overwhelm as well as helps fix your hand and help you put stuff to the drop, because there's a few things we want in the drop, like, or don't mind in the drop, like not even a scratch, any of these 3 extra cards, full mission accomplished, you don't care about that being in the drop, and the reincarnation or the wicked incarnation. Those are like the main things we don't care about, and usually like a pitch target for petrification. I say the most difficult thing about this deck in its current form is probably charging, but when in doubt, probably charge one of the extra cards and maybe a Kai. But other than that, because this is not like the traditional run, a lot of 3-ofs and a lot of 4-ofs. This kind of very skill intensive into setting up your plays. So combos, I'll give you like 2 or 3. Like I was saying before, the Vegito Unison and Sparks gives you some, how should I say, the best way to put it is soft loops, which, for instance, after you swing and put 2 cards back up on there from your warp that you overwhelmed, you can get back this from your warp to use Vegito effect to send that card from up under it to your drop, and then draw 1, and then you can use this effect to remove itself from your drop to the warp and draw 1. So easy plus advantage. And then with the leader swing, you drew 3 cards that turn, probably can do more. Also, another interaction is, with the other unison, while I'm maining a sword dance, 9 times out of 10, every deck has like a 4 or less threat you gotta get off the board that you negated with this already, or this found its way to the drop, whether you discarded it or bursted it to the drop area. You can to use this other ability, which I alluded to earlier, which you can pay 1 and move this from the drop area to from the game to Spirit Boost. Spirit Boost is basically removing a marker off your unison, which this triggers its other ability, which lets you send a card from your opponent's drop to the warp. So you can Spirit Boost that to move this from the game and pop a 4 or less, or send it to the warp more accurately, because we built this deck to warp everything. And you got rid of a threat that they might need in a drop. Or you can possibly turn off the sparking, because there's a lot of sparking negates, like my power burst, there's one in every color, and you got to be mindful, especially when you're trying to push for a game, that how many cards in a drop or what's in a drop area. You kind of got to be aware. The other thing that's a pretty good closeout and why I chose my SCR is for this reason, and the emphasis why triple strikes are important, and because most of the time they're not going to hold the line too much at 4 life or 5 life, and they might let a double strike somewhere go through, say from your 8 drop, or put you down to 5 to 3. As soon as you got that kill streak or put them in the kill range. And you can drop this, which is easy to set up for 0 energy. Because if you're defending well and have, for instance, the Vegito Unison, you can bring this out for 0 energy. And then play this Pain 4. Mind you, you still have to have 15 or more black cards in your work, which is not too hard to do since we draw a lot, burst a lot, and combo a lot. But I say perfect scenario, turn 4 you're doing that, especially if you playing against a mill deck, since those are very prevalent this tournament. They'll help you out immensely, kill themselves. But usually, like turn 5 or 6, you're setting up this interaction with this card, because when you swing with your big guy that you played for free, or conditionally for free. I hate saying free without mentioning condition, meeting a certain condition, because nothing's purely free. It's just the over exaggeration of the community. But the first extra card negate they have, which most likely they will, you can negate that with his effect. I say he's the other unique black card in Black's arsenal that we don't really use. But I like to explore my options. And 40k through an extra card negate. I know battle cards negate went by the wayside because we always running the counter plays for the battle card floodgates. That's why stuff like this, Super Kamehameha, and a few other things kind of made these battle negates kind of lose its luster and value and the importance of running in the main deck anymore. That's why a card like this is gotten stronger, especially for black. But the point is, it lets you get that attack through, especially if they tapped out to do it. And mind you, if they have anything else, you can side in the hunt for those free negates just to shut that down as another counter. And because you're running this secret, you can burst to stand him back up and triple strike them again effectively. And like the best case scenario, if, or even the worst case scenario, they got 6 life, because usually when they do they turn 2 or turn 3 awaken, they go down to 6. There's only a few leaders that stay at the high life. This leader is one of those, but it's an old leader. Most go down to 6. So with this interaction, 1 or 2 swings should win you the game. Even you can win, or point taken, you can win the game from 6 life. You can 6-0 potentially. Same with this, and not only that, you get to burn them a life. On top of that, you can pair this with any one of the, how should I say, bombs, or like they call it, generals of the deck, just enforce your dominance. But the ceiling of this interaction is with him or the Dark Mask King, because he can also stand back up, which is pretty cool. But that's all I have to say. There's a lot more things intertwined, but hopefully I explained the main points, and the main objective is basically not only being defensive, which traditionally most hats are, like a 80-20% on defense to offense. I want to kind of change that polarity a bit, make it offensive defensive. It's kind of like a 50-50, or at best 55 to 45, what I think this is, of offense to defense, because I wanted to build something where I can start playing the game early, and as well as keep my opponent at a reachable distance, because again, it's only like 35 minutes plus the 5-minute overtime in a single game, so you gotta make the most of it. That's why you defend early with negates and blockers, and then from turn 3 forward you just put a lot of pressure. I don't have the usual 20 plus negates like the traditional hatch, probably like under 15, but most of my resources I can recycle again, built by because of the deck's nature and design. Thanks for watching. This has been my 52 card list of hatch. Gotta fix one more thing and save it because I'm over one card. Bam. Done. But thanks for again, and catch ya on the next one. Oh, but before that, I forgot about my other SCR choice I meant to say. From picking it out, I want to do something unique. You know, the traditional is the Cumber, but I feel like it doesn't really get me there. It does burn, which burning life is good, but I don't think it gets me fired enough on what I need it to do for the style I'm trying to play. So still good, still top 10 SCRs, because you can use a lot of different SCRs for this. My other one I was looking at is this Transcendence. We are focused on hitting the hand anyway, and if they had a counter, he kind of eradicates the field, and it's cheap. And you either going to have the counter or the blocker, which you can just warp beforehand and hit you with the victory strike and just combo everything. Or, like I said before, we can just beat you with just pressure and just the resource game and just draining your resources, like from hand, field, and drop. I say this is the only one, or black's the only color that can like take you there in a resource grind and you can't recover at all. The other one I was looking at, like probably be my third choice, is this one, which is really interesting, and also I can cycle this back to my hand with my psych resource, what did I call them before, my recyclers. There we go. Because also I can beyond on limits and grab this back because it's a 7 cost. Be mindful of green players and A1 charismatic, but this is also another interesting setup, and by playing this I can warp the field, and I can set it up to where I'm playing this for 0 energy due to its permanent. And also was a really good choice, and just can easy dump on there, but I gotta get them to like a comfortable position to kill them. But my other choice I was thinking about would have been the cooler, since it's kind of like the shield and sword all in one, because there were like a variety of decks that go really wide, and this can be like a comeback card and a closeout. Also, if they have a big hand, it powers him up by just reducing it to 5, as well as giving him a number of swings based on the Z energy, because as the effect goes, they reduce their hand to 5, and the leftover cards from that goes to Z energy, and you can just remove 2 to stand them back up. Active battle, active mean, which is really strong, and he's a blocker on top of that. So if you don't win, he's another defensive threat that they gotta get through, and Hatch already limits them to like 2 to 4 swings potentially. So that is my other idea. There was like another interaction with the Victory Strike Goku. I lost my train of thought, but this kind of been a long one, but hope y'all enjoying this. I need the link for the retention, cause starting off anew again. So I wanted to give as much information as digestible. But my last 2 picks that I would have went to for SCR choices would have been maybe this, kind of for the same reason, because this is kind of like one of the strongest SCRs because of Servant, and also it can what this deck does, put a condition on your opponent, so they're not doing much return pressure because of the active battle, which they have to crit a light in order to swing at you. It's really good, especially when you have blockers and negates, so they just lose life for no reason. So more than likely, if you don't win on your turn, you can just pop an energy or pay your energy and just launch her off. Usually I like to set her up on my opponent's turn, depending if I can do it correctly and navigate to the point where it's their last swing and they use most of their energy, so she can safely stay on the field. But if I have to, I'll just use that energy on my turn as the player for the active battle. The other one I thought of was real cool, and I had borrowed the idea from my previous overwhelm deck. Is the red blue, which is super cheap, and a lot of people don't respect this card anymore. There's a few interactions. Not only that, she's dark overwhelm and can bring bodies back to swing at your opponent. And one of the bodies I like that she brings back is my Demigra, my 5-drop from the deck profile. Cause when that swings, that warps card at you. Or it can bring back my dual attack Bardock. This was another strong option I was considering. Also, for her other effect, she got a laundry list of effects. I can sack off an overrun, cause she brings them back and they don't have to be. You don't get warp at the end of turn, but I can sack off an overrun to negate an attack. And with Hatch leader effect already limiting your attacks, this seemed like a match made in heaven, offensively and defensively. But she is something I definitely wanna consider again. It feels like the other game where it lets me run 4. That would have been my top 4. The original one, I was thinking about going back to instead of the Vegeta. It's kind of like my honorable mention. Is this? Always like this SCR. It's a game ender. Also, especially in the Black Mirror match, their strength and their super combos could be your power, which is really strong. Not only that, you get to look in their hand on swing, which knowledge is power, and you already draining their hand. You can see what they wanted to keep. I'm telling you, black hand control is the way. But now we're finished. Down. Thanks for watching, and catch y'all later. Stuff to consider. Deuces.